I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's analysis of the news. Do you remember back in early February we learned that our government was going to give $900 million to Gaza, to the Palestinians to rebuild their blown up buildings after their war with Israel? Well, there's a little hitch in the get-along, a problem there legally being able to do that. The Palestinian group is designated by the U.S. government as a terrorist organization, according to this particular website called inthedays.com. And under law may not receive federal aid. See, we have a law against giving money to terrorist groups. But the administration has asked Congress for minor changes in the U.S. law that would permit aid to receive, to continue flowing to Palestinians in the unlikely event that the Hamas-backed officials might become part of a unified Palestinian government. So, we're wanting to change the law just a little bit to allow us to give the money to the terrorists. The aid measures may never come into play, given that the power-sharing negotiations between Hamas and its rival, the U.S.-backed Fatah faction, appear deadlocked. The two groups may have been bitterly divided since 2007, when the Hamas seized control of Gaza. Nevertheless, the move has alarmed congressional supporters of Israel as they watch for any signs that the new White House might be more sympathetic to Palestinians than was the Bush administration. The Obama administration's proposal is akin to agreeing to support a government that, quote, only has a few Nazis in it, according to Mark Kirk, a Republican from Illinois. He's a congressman, and he told Secretary of State Hillary Clinton that last week. He was saying, basically, it's like saying to Germany, okay, we're going to give you money now, even though there's still a few Nazis around in your government. Well, the move underscores the quandary faced by the administration in its efforts to broker peace in the Middle East. The bill would provide $840 million for the Palestinian Authority for the rebuilding of Gaza. Under law, any U.S. aid would require that the Palestinian government meet three long-standing criteria. One, recognizing Israel. Second, renouncing violence. And third, agreeing to follow past Israeli-Palestinian agreements. Well, Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, said that the proposal sounded completely unworkable, even if the individual Hamas-backed officials agreed to abide by U.S. conditions. He said, quote, you couldn't have the leadership of a terrorist organization pick the ministers and the government with the power to appoint and withdraw them and answering to them. So, what are we going to do? Frankly, I hope we are not going to give $900 million to the terrorists. Here's a note from Headline News, Israel Today. Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas this week said that Hamas does not need to recognize Israel or honor peace agreements with the Jewish state in order to be a part of his government. Speaking before the Palestinian Youth Parliament a day before renewing reconciliation talks with Hamas, Abbas suggested that Hamas can carry on attacking Israelis even as it serves the Palestinian Authority government. Now, Hamas officials said that's a good start since the Palestinians overwhelmingly voted the terror group into power. But Hamas spokesman Fawzi Barhoum told the group's Al-Qassam website that Abbas and his Fatah movement must also recognize that Hamas's electoral victory means the Palestinian general public wants all those participating in the government to engage in resistance against Israel. Of course, that's local talk for terrorism. Fatah, he said, must stick with the Palestinian people choice, resistance, or the dialogue will fail. Well, Israeli officials on Monday expressed outrage at a Los Angeles Times report that President Barack Obama had asked Congress to amend the United States law to allow him to provide financial aid to a Palestinian government that includes an unrepentant Hamas. That, of course, is what we just reported to you in the first report. Well, every step that strengthens Hamas only distances peace. In the event that the report is true, said Israel, it is painful and worrying. Meanwhile, Israel's foreign ministry on Monday released a statement reaffirming the demand that the Palestinians recognize Israel as a Jewish state. The recognition of Israel as the sovereign state of the Jewish people is an essential and necessary step to the historic process of reconciliation between Israel and the Palestinians. Here's another bit of news. Venezuela and the Palestinian Authority established formal ties this week with a ceremony in Caracas. The move comes just months after Venezuela broke ties with Israel and expelled the Israeli ambassador in response to Israel's January offensive against the Hamas terrorist infrastructure in Gaza. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez has been a strong opponent of Israel in recent years and has likened the Palestinian struggle against the Jewish state to his own struggle against the United States. Monday's ceremony was a violation of the peace agreements signed so far between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, which forbids the latter, that is the Palestinians, to forge official ties to foreign states during this interim period. So, the Palestinians, they don't care. They hooked up with Hugo Chavez. Oh, well, that's okay. Our president shook hands with him, too. I shudder to think. Here's something from Stockholm, Sweden. The volume of weapons exported to the Middle East has risen sharply in the past 4 years, threatening to destabilize the volatile region further, a leading Swedish think tank warned this week. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute said arms exports to the Middle East increased 38% in the period from 2004 to 2008, compared with 1999 to 2003. The United States supplied most of the arms, although major shipments also came from France. The United Arab Emirates was the biggest importer of weapons in the region and the third biggest in the world after China and India. SIPRI, that's an acronym for the Stockholm, Sweden International Peace Research Institute, said in a report on global arms transfers that in 2004 to 2008 period, the United Arab Emirates bought 80 F-16 combat aircraft from the U.S. and 50 Mirage fighters from France. And they said this is, of course, a big concern in the region where we see a lot of tension and full-out conflicts. Well, during the 4-year period, from 2004 to 2008, the United Arab Emirates accounted for 34% of the arms imports in the Middle East. Israel accounted for 22% and Egypt 14%. Well, what does all that mean? They are the kings east of Israel. Listen to Revelation chapter 16, verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Now, I realize that theologians have, for the past century, thought that China and the kings of the Far East would be able to send their armies across the dry riverbed of the Euphrates into the Middle East. Well, in the day in which we live, it is not necessary for the waters of the Euphrates River to be dried up in order to move a convoy across the Arabian desert, moving into Israel for the Battle of Armageddon. 700 years ago, the rabbis wrote that it would be the children of Ishmael that would bring the whole world against Israel in the last great battle, which we call Armageddon. So, it's entirely possible that the way of the kings of the East will be the Arab countries, and they're buying arms and preparing for that final great battle, that proposed genocide of the Jews. But I want you to know that God is on Israel's side, And any nation that comes against Israel will suffer the judgment of God. And it could be soon. I'm J.R. Church. We'll see you again tomorrow with our analysis of the news.